In this video, I'm going to show you how to model the Tool Post 1433. And this is actually the first model that you'll be making using Inventor. All right, and so if you were to go into the student guide and go to chapter 3, you can find a lot of what I'm going to be talking about right here. But actually, this thing is called the Tool Slide 1433. I apologize. So when you go there, you're going to be able to see what the tool slide looks like, and you'll be able to see, I'll just expand on this. This is what you'll see to get started, is this guy right here. And this is all of the dimensions and everything you need in order to create this. And it actually takes you through step by step. But this video is also going to take you through step by step. And so I'm going to drag this over here. So I'm in Inventor right now. And what I want to do is create an Inventor part model. So I'm going to go right up here where it says part and click on that. And it takes me into a setup where I can create a model in Inventor. So what Inventor calls its parts are IPTs. So that's the extension on the file after you save this guy. So what we're going to do eventually here, we're going to save this as Tool Slide 1433, and it will be .ipt automatically attached to it. So you'll notice by picking on that, right up here it says Finish Sketch. So what that implies is we are in a sketch, and that's true. We're in an Inventor sketch. So I want to show you a couple of things about Inventor. Right over here in the upper right, you have a view cube, and it says front right there. When you're looking at the front, you're actually looking at the XY plane in Inventor. But there's also a little home icon right up there, a little house. If you click on that, you can see how it turns, and it gives us sort of an isometric view looking back at our XY plane. So these two lines that you see lie on the XY plane. So this is X and this is Y, and where they meet is your 0, 0 point. All right, but I think it's important in AutoCAD, in Inventor, that we add a little more geometry to this, because right now, if I try to dimension to this line, if I'm trying to locate geometry from that line, I can't dimension just to this line or just to this line. They're just sort of on there as markers at this point. They're not really set up as an entity that I can dimension from. So here's how we're going to fix that. If you look over here, what we call this part of our screen on the left-hand side is called the browser. All right. And some people call it a tree. Once we start getting things added to it, the browser tree, and I may refer to it as the browser tree or go over to the browser. But one of the things you're going to see is there's a word there that says origin, and next to it there's a plus sign. If you pick on the plus sign, you can see an XZ plane, excuse me, a YZ plane, an XZ plane, and an XY plane. Now we're already sketching on the XY plane, but in order to project this extra geometry into here, we actually go up to this button right here that says Project Geometry. And if you pick on right below where on the words where it says Project Geometry, you pick that and then pick Project Geometry again right there. Okay. Now you can also do it from up here. And what happens when you move over onto the YZ plane and you pick, you can see that there's a line on there now that wasn't on there before. It looks like it's green, and that's because it projected the intersection of the YZ plane where it would intersect the XY plane. So we're going to do the same thing. We're still in the Project Geometry option, and we're going to project the XZ plane's intersection where it intersects with the XY plane. And so now we can see we have a green line here and a green line here. And those actually are like entities we can dimension to, and we can use those when we're creating our geometry and orienting our geometry. Where they meet is the origin, which is your 0, 0 point. You have the option down here to even turn on usually a center point, which is right down here. You can pick on center point. And but I'm going to go ahead and just right click on center line over here, and let's see if we can make this, see if we can make center point, right click on it, if we can just make it visible. It may not let me because it's still in project geometry. Let me escape a couple of times and see if now I can. There we go. So I had to press the escape button a couple of times to get out of project geometry. And so what I want to do is on visibility, I want to turn that on visibility. So now you can see a little dot right there, and that's really your 0, 0 point. All right, so now we're ready to make our sketch. And so I'm going to go back to the view cube, and you see where it says front on that box. It's right on that side right there on my view cube. I'm going to pick right there, and it's going to take me back to where I'm looking straight on to my view cube. Now, if you press the wheel on your mouse and hold it down, you can pan just like you can in AutoCAD. So I'm going to kind of pull that over here to the side because I'm going to draw my sketch of this object right in here. All right. Okay, so I'm going to drag this guy back over because I want to point out a couple of things to you. So whenever we look at an object that we're going to model, we want to think about what would be the best base model that we could create there. And by that I mean, what would you draw first and extrude first that you would build everything else on top of? And so when I look at that, I look at this base right down here that's 5 inches long and it's 0.75 tall right here, and it's 0.125 tall along this axis, and it's 0.25 wide. And so what I would do is draw that profile right there, and we call that the base sketch. That's what I would choose for my base sketch. And then I would extrude that 2.5 inches deep, because that's how deep this is. Then I would add this other stuff to my base model, okay? So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start by drawing that profile right there. So here's how we can start. We can start by picking on our rectangle command. Pick on rectangle, and it wants to know, well, where's the lower left corner, for example. So I'm just going to snap right there onto my origin point and come off of that. And we knew that the base was 5 inches long and 0.75 inches tall. So I'm going to type 5, and that goes in right here for the length. And then, unlike with AutoCAD, you don't type a comma, you press the tab key, and that's going to ask us for the height right over here that we want, and that's going to be 0.75, and we're going to press enter. We're going to zoom out a little bit, press escape. So there's the first part of our model, of our sketch anyway, for our model. And now we need that piece that sticks up right over here. And I'm actually going to use another rectangle to draw that. I'm going to pick on the rectangle tool right up here. And I'm going to again snap to that corner right there. And I'm going to move up. And this time for my X value, I'm going to type 0.25 and press tab. And for my Y value, I'm going to type 1.25 and press enter. All right, so now you can see that I have two rectangles that overlap each other, and that's not a problem for extruding. I can extrude those guys out, but you actually can go in if you want to do a trim. You can go in, for example, I can do a trim, and I can go in and I can trim some of this stuff out. You can also, I'm going to press escape, you can drag these dimensions away from your part. So I'm going to drag these dimensions, I hope. Drag those guys down. Drag this guy out a little bit. So all I've used are the same dimensions that are on the sketch of the tool slide 1433. And as I said, you don't have to trim these out, but you have to watch out when you do the extrusion that you select this rectangle and this rectangle to do the extrusion. So I'm going to choose Finish Sketch because I'm finished with the sketch at this point. Now, actually what I could have done is just typed E and press enter, and E takes you right into the extrude command. So I'll do that next time, but for right now I just pressed Finish Sketch, and the thing you want to be sure of whenever you draw something like this is that all of the endpoints of the lines actually come together so that they're coincident. Okay, so we know that they actually end right there and they don't overlap or they don't have a gap. And so these should, because I drew them both using a rectangle. So I'm going to go right over here to the extrude tool. So you pick on extrude, and Inventor knows it only has one sketch that it can extrude. And so what we want to do is come right up here, and it says distance A. You can pick right there and type 2.5 and stretch it out that way. Now I'm going to do an undo on that, and I'm going to do another extrude, and this time I'm just going to drag it like this, and you can actually type in what you want by just dragging. You can come over here and type in what you want that distance to be, and you can edit that if you want to, or you can just enter it right here. Either way will work, and you pick OK, and at that point I have the base of this object placed. All right. Now the next part of this object that I'm going to add to it is going to be this rectangle. I'm going to draw a rectangle on this surface right here and extrude it up. All right. And so that rectangle needs to be 2.25 in this direction right here, and it needs to be 1.75 in this direction here. And the total that it's going to be extruded is 1.75 plus 0.5 plus 0.5. So altogether, you add that together, you're at 2.75. But that would be if you're extruding from the very bottom. And since I'm starting right here at 0.75, and I know that if I add all this up, I get to 2.75, then all I need to do is extrude that 2. All right. So I'll show you how to do that, so don't worry if you're not exactly following what's going on here. All right, so what we want to do is start a new sketch on this surface right here. Okay, so when you move your cursor onto that and you pick, you have some icons come up. One says Edit Extrude, one says Edit Sketch, one says Share the Sketch, one says Make Sketch Visible, but the last one over here says Create Sketch. So what we're doing is we're creating a new sketch, and we're actually sketching on this surface right here. And I'm going to use the rectangle command again, and this time I want to snap to that corner and move in this direction right here. And what did we say? We want this to be 2.25, tab, and then we want that to be 1.75, and enter. All right, so I'm going to go to my home view so we can kind of look at that. So you can see I've drawn a new rectangle. It even has dimensions on it. It says 2.25 by 1.75. So this time I'm just going to type E. Instead of finishing the sketch, I'm just going to type E. That puts me right into extrude. And right here, I can type 2 if I want to, or you can actually type a formula. Inventor will let you type a formula. So you could type 2.75, let's just do that, 2.75 minus 0.75, and so we've got 2.75 minus 0.75, and these formulas can also take parentheses and things like that, and just pick OK. All right, so it extruded that guy, and hopefully the total height here is 2.75. All right. Now, let me see. You can actually inspect, and you can do a measure, and you can go from that corner there to this corner here and see what it tells you right over here, and it says it's 2.75. All right, so we're going to go back to our 3D model. Let's get out of this guy. Let's actually just go to 3D model. So what we want to do next, let me close measure down. I want to follow the same steps that the book follows in case you're following along in the book. What the book shows you to do next is to cut the grooves through this side all the way through to the opposite side over here. All right, and so I'm going to refer back to, I'm going to drag my sketch over, come on. and go back up to here. Sorry, expand on that. Okay, so look right in here. We have a slot that's 1 inch wide and it's a 1/2 inch tall right there. And it's located 0.375 inches from this right side over here. And then there's another slot right in the middle of that that's 0.25 tall and is located 0.75 over, okay? So I'm going to drag this back. Let me minimize a little bit, go back over here. So we want to start a new sketch right here. So we're going to pick on this and pick right over there on to the far right and pick Create Sketch. And that puts us in here like this. And here's what I'm going to do this time. I'm going to do a rectangle, and I'm just going to start anywhere. I'm going to pick a point, and that first rectangle should be 1 tab 0.5. So I'm going to type 1 tab 0.5 and press enter. All right. Now it's not located yet in the correct place, so I'm not going to worry too much about that for right now. But I'm still in the rectangle command, so I'm just going to come up here above my object, and I'm going to pick a point, and I'm going to come down into my other rectangle and pick. And I didn't even define that one with any dimensions. And at that point, I'm going to press escape, and that gets me out of the rectangle command. The next thing I'm going to use is this tool right here that says dimension. So I'm going to pick on dimension, and I'm going to pick the right side of this part right here. Just pick on the right side, and then I'm going to pick the right side of that rectangle, and I'm going to follow that up, and I'm going to pick right there, and that should be 0.375. So I'm just going to use my keyboard. I'm going to type 0.375 and press enter. And so that moved just a little bit, but you can see the dimension right here of 0.375. The other thing that I know is that from the top to the very bottom of this guy right here, by looking at the sketch, it says that you go 0.5 and then you go 0.5. So really, I know that from the top of this part to the bottom of that groove right there, or that slot, it's going to be 1. So I'm going to use a dimension, and I'm going to go to the top of the part and the bottom of that rectangle, and I'm going to pull this out over here on this side. And I'm just going to type 1 and press enter, and you see that that guy moves. Let me exit out of that and escape. I'm going to drag this dimension off, and I'm going to drag this dimension up so we can see where that guy is. The reason that this guy moved when I changed the dimension on that is because Inventor is called a parametric modeling system. And parametric means that the features and the models are driven by the dimensions. If the dimension changes, the model changes. And that's a really cool thing that happens. So I'm going to go ahead and define this rectangle that I put in over here. So I'm going to do, first place a dimension from the right side. I'm just going to pick on the right side of the model, and then I'm going to go to the right side, and I'm going to move a dimension right up there and pick. And I want that to be 0.75 and press enter. Okay. The next one that I want to place, I'm still in the dimension. I'm just going to pick on the top edge and drag it straight up like that and type 0.25 because that's how wide that groove, and press enter. And at that point, I have enough that I can extrude cut right through this part. So I've got all my dimensions in there that I need. And if you're drawing this using the steps in the book, all of those dimensions are pretty much shown right there. I can add a dimension from here to the top if I want and bring that out like that. And when I do that, what I want to show you, it says, adding this dimension will over constrain the sketch. So what Inventor is saying is, I don't need that dimension, but if I pick accept, what it does is it adds that dimension 0.500, but it puts it in parentheses. And if you remember, when a dimension is in parentheses, we say it's a reference dimension. It's for reference only. So if I don't want this to be a reference, I have to delete the 1 out right here. So I'm going to press escape. I'm just going to delete that 1 out right there, and then delete this guy out and put it in there again. If I do a dimension from the top of the part to the top of that rectangle right there, and I'll put that in there. It says 0.50. I'm just going to pick the check button. And now it's not a reference dimension because the dimension that said 1.00 is gone. So I can have a 0.5 and a 0.5, but I can't have all three at the same time. So for example, if I do a dimension and I go from the top now to the bottom of that rectangle and I pick it in here, I'm going to get that warning again that adding this is going to over constrain the part. So if I accept, now the 1 is in parentheses. So Inventor's pretty smart in knowing when it's over constraining something, probably smarter than you will be at first. You know, you'll try to put extra dimensions in there and Inventor's going to say, wait, I don't need that dimension. So you're going to have to kind of trust that. All right, so we're going to go to extrude now. And so what I want to do is I can finish the sketch, or I can just type E and enter. All right, so now I have all these different parts of those rectangles to extrude. So what it wants me to do, if I look at this right here, is it wants me to select the profiles. So I want to pick that, I want to pick that, I want to pick that, I want to pick that. So I'm picking all the parts of those rectangles. I could have gone in and used my trim command and trimmed out the overlapping parts to avoid this. Now, obviously, I don't want to extend this guy out like that because that's not what my part does. I need to run it through and cut. So look right down here where it says Boolean. The Boolean function on this one is not a join. This is going to be a cut, all right? So you need to pick on cut right there. Now it's looking for a depth. How deep do you want to cut that profile through? And it's giving me some things right here. And one of the options that I have is that I can go through all, which is this button right here. Let me move this over a little bit so you can see it. Through all, or to, and in this case, if I choose how deep do I want to cut it? Well, I want to cut it to this back plane right over here. So I'm going to pick on to, and I'm just going to pick that plane right there. And it stops when it cuts through there. Now there's a reason why you might want to do that. If I had a taller wall back over here on this side and I cut through all, it might cut right through the wall back over here. So this way I know it just goes part the way through, okay? So I'm going to pick OK, and that's all good. All right. Now I think to finish this guy off, I just need to add 2 holes in here. So I'm going to add a hole to this surface right here. And the location of that hole I can find, and the diameter I can find in my sketch again. So I'll drag that over here and let's look at what we have. We have a hole right here that has a diameter of 0.75, and it is just a through hole. It goes all the way through the part. It's not threaded or anything like that. And it is located 1.25 from this plane here, and from this plane on the inside, it's located 0.875. So 1.25, 0.875 with a diameter of 0.75. So I'm going to add that in. And so what I'm going to do is come right up here, and I have a tool called hole. Pick on hole, and then just come in here and kind of go into the area where you think that hole should be and pick. All right. So what that does is it opens up this dialog box, and it wants us to define the hole. So what I want right here is I want a 0.75 hole. That's the diameter that I want for that hole. And what I want, I don't want a tapped hole. I want a simple hole. A tapped hole has thread. A simple hole is what I want. And then it says, what's the termination? Is it a distance or what is it? Oh, for some reason, okay, there we go. For some reason it was on counter bore. So I just want a simple hole. I don't want a counter bore or anything like that. So this is the hole that I want. And when it asks for the distance, it says, how deep do you want to make it? So I could pick on distance, and I could type in a depth right here if I wanted to. Or I can choose this icon, which is through all, or I can choose to. In this case, if I'm saying I want that hole to go to a certain spot, then I would pick on the bottom of it. So what I'm going to do is say through all, and now look, the hole looks too small in diameter, And the reason for that is you look right here, you can define the diameter just by highlighting that and typing 0.75. So what we have is a simple hole that's going all the way through. The problem is we haven't told where its center is located at yet. So if I pick on this edge, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to add that other guy. Let me undo right here. Okay, let me go back to hole real quick and just pick on this right here. And so I want a simple hole like that. I want it to be 0.75. I want it to go through all, but I need to locate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick on this edge right here, and that allows me to come in here and type in a distance. And the distance is 1.25 in that direction right there. And you can see that moved the hole. Then I want to go to this corner right here and pick. And again, we're going to type 0.875 for that one. And at this point, it knows where the center of our hole is supposed to be, okay? Because we've got our 2 dimensions in there, and we have the diameter of the hole is right here, that it's a simple hole, it goes all the way through, okay? So we pick OK, and Inventor builds that hole for us. If you want to go up to a top view, you can look through it and you can see that it goes all the way through. If you go back to home view, it brings you to here. All right, so we have one more hole left to put in this, and then we need to save it. And and we could have saved it already. I'm just, I'll go through that in a second. But look right here, we have another hole on this vertical plane. And this one is 1.125 from the left-hand side. It's 1.0 from this edge right here, 1.0, 1.125. It goes all the way through, but it's a little bit hard to read this note. So let's look at this. This looks like a hole that has a counter bore, and it actually does. That symbol right there means this hole has a counter bore that has a diameter of 1. So it's a larger hole that goes into a depth. That's the depth symbol of 0.125. And so we're going to have a flat bottomed hole with a diameter of 1 that goes to a depth of 0.125. And then at the center of that hole, we have a threaded hole that goes the rest of the way through. That hole, which is threaded, is 3/4 of an inch in diameter. And we need to set it up where it's 10 threads per inch, UNC. UNC stands for Unified National Course Thread. So this entire note right here tells us everything we need about this. It tells us that the thread is 3/4 inch thread, 10 threads per inch, Unified National Course, that there is a counter bore on the surface of this hole that has a diameter of 1 and goes to a depth of 0.125. So we've got to remember that as we start our building this hole. So let me drag this out of the way. Come on, there we go. All right, so what we want to do is put a hole on this surface right here. So just go straight to the hole command and pick kind of in the center right there. And this time let's put in the location first. So if we choose the left edge right here and we pick on that and we type 1.25, and then we don't want to press enter, we just type 1.25, and then we want to pick on this edge right down here, and we want that to be 1. We can just type 1, and we don't have to press enter or anything. We just type 1, and it moves the center of the hole to there. What we have left to do, though, is to define the hole, and this is a counterbored hole, so we're going to pick on counterbore, and we want the counterbore to be a diameter of 1, and we want its depth to be 0.125, okay? And then we want a threaded hole that goes the rest of the way through right there. And what we want to do is define the size of that hole by looking at the threads that we have right here. So we could type 0.75 in there if mine defaulted to 0.75. And then I can look at all the different threads that I have here, and I've got a bunch of them. And the one I want, though, from looking at the sketch is 3/4 inch in diameter -10 UNC. So I'm going to pick that. it should go through all. And at that point, if I look over here, it looks like I've got my 1-inch diameter counter bored to a depth of 0.125. Everything looks good, so I'm going to pick OK. And sure enough, it built that hole for us. Okay. Now, let me go back to this guy. I'm not sure I placed that in the right place. And this is the cool thing about using Inventor is I'm going to go over to my browser and I find hole number 2. I'm going to expand on it and I'm going to click on that and click right here. And sure enough, I went 1.25. I should be 1.125. I thought that looked over like it's too far over, and pick OK. And at that point, I can finish the sketch and you can just see it just move that hole over. So what this hole does, let me get over to here and get on where I can kind of, you have a orbit tool in here that you can hold down with your left click button and you can kind of move around and you can orbit. So that hole goes right through that slot, okay? And we don't know why. We don't know why this part was designed to be the way that it is. But at that point, our part is pretty much finished. So we can go to the home view and press escape and get out of our orbit. And so the last thing I want to do, I believe, I'm going to look at the directions here, is just give this file a name, because I think I've got everything done on this. And I believe that I have. So what I want to do is come over here to go to File, Save As. Now, I don't have to go there, but I'm going to do a Save As on this. And I'll show you another option here in a second. But you do a Save As, and you can see that right here it's going to my Daily Work Fall 1433 automatically. That's because that is the folder that I said to send everything to in my project file. So all I need to do is come right down here and give this guy a name. And I always like to capitalize everything. So I'm going to go Tool, Slide, 1433. And it will automatically default to a .ipt, which is an Inventor part file. And I just choose Save. Now, when you do that, if you look right up here at the top, you'll see it says Tool Slide 1433. This is called the title bar, is right up here at the top. All of our toolbars are along here. And so 3D modeling tools are things like extrude and hole and fillet and things like that. Sketch tools are lines, circles, rectangles, those sorts of things. And with annotate, we can add annotations, but we'll get into all this stuff later. Tools we originally opened up when we were making our project file. That's where we went and we set some of this stuff up. You know, I realize I think one of the things that I want to do is go ahead and do that. I'm going to pick on Tools, and I'm going to pick on Application Options, and I'm going to choose Drawing, this tab right here. You guys probably should do this too. Just pick on Drawing, and right here it says Edit Dimension when created. We don't want that to be checked necessarily, so I'm going to uncheck that for right now. So that'll help us later in the semester when we start making drawings with these guys. But at that point we can just pick Apply and pick Close. All right, so we've got our part modeled, we've given it a name, and this is our first Inventor project, and it is finished.